Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the peace of World War II and the lead up to the Cold War because the events kind of happen around the same time. So there are three different conferences you need to know and what happened at those conferences. The first is the Tehran Conference, which is going to happen in Tehran, Turkey. And at this, the Allied powers come together and agree to invade France and then move towards Germany. During the Tehran Conference, Great Britain also starts negotiating with the Soviet Union about post-war peace in Europe. Second conference is the Yalta Conference. At the Yalta Conference, the Soviet Union agrees to go to war against Japan and help out the Western powers there. At Yalta, we also see the Organization for the United Nations, which is like the League of Nations, but has a little bit more power and not as weak as the League of Nations. United Nations is still around today. They agree on dividing up Germany into 4 zones. So Germany is now occupied, and they'll be divided in 4 zones, basically with the major powers controlling them. One controlled by the Soviet Union, one by France, one by Great Britain, one by the United States. What ends up happening is that Great Britain, the United States, and France end up having theirs all together, and then the Soviet Union's on their own, and this is where we get East and West Germany are going to split apart. Berlin is also divided into zones, and so you have West Berlin and East Berlin, the capital cities, but West Berlin is technically in East Germany, and so we're going to see some Cold War politics play out there. We also see tension between the United States and Great Britain against Russia over what's going to happen to these Eastern European countries. The Western powers want fair and free elections, and the Eastern power, Soviet Union, wants to kind of have a buffer zone between them and the West, and once those countries become part of the Soviet Union. Potsdam is the last conference. At this point, most of Eastern Europe is occupied by the Soviet Union. Germany is divided up, Austria is also divided up, and they agree on the terms of peace. Around this time, we also had the formation of Israel. So we had the Balfour Declaration, where the British promised to give the Jews their own homeland. Well, the Holocaust kind of provided that extra push for it. And so we have lots of Jews who no longer feel safe in Europe moving towards what is Palestine and becomes Israel. But again, there are already Palestinian people living there, and so there's going to be some trouble, tensions between the two groups, and Great Britain doesn't really stay around to fix it. They kind of just get out and say, we'll have fun with it. The United Nations, it's your problem now. And a lot of our post-World War II problems in the Middle East are going to be a result of the formation of Israel. Decolonization also occurs with the fall of World War II. This is basically the end of imperialism, getting those imperial powers out. Under the Atlantic Charter, all states have a right to self-determination and to rule themselves. So we're going to look at a few areas that were colonized under imperialism and see how they become decolonized. First, we'll look at India. If you remember, India, with the Indian National Conference and Gandhi, were non-violently protesting the British. Well, the British do come out of India. However, we still have those religious tensions between the Muslims and the Hindus, and so they decide to basically split the country. And so there's going to be an area of land for Muslims, which will become East and West Pakistan, or today Pakistan and Bangladesh, and the Hindus will live in India. But, this is complicated because we have some areas that are very mixed and some not, and so you have Hindus moving one way and Muslims moving another, and they're very violent against each other. In Africa, we see kind of 2 ways. Most that are ruled by British or indirect rule have non-violent protest movements, the British lead, but those that were ruled by direct rule, especially French colonies, it's very violent, very messy, and the French don't leave right away. In South Africa, the British do leave, and feeling bad for the way they treated the Afrikaans, or the Boers, or the Dutch settlers, they give them power, and those white Dutch Afrikaans will institute the power and the policy of apartheid, They're very racist, basically making the Africans their second-class citizens and dominating their own rule. Okay, so that's kind of the end of World War II, decolonization, build up to Cold War. So the thing with the build up to Cold War is that we see the United States and Soviet Union now become the big superpowers with two ideologies that are going to butt heads. You know, we were best of friends during the war. Now that we don't have a common enemy, it's not the same. So we'll get more into that in Cold War. I'll see you next time.